A pickup artist is a non-charismatic person's idea of a charismatic person. I'm Colin Wright, and you are watching Consider This. I've been unfortunate enough to have met many a pickup artist in my life. I've written a lot about personal development and lifestyle and growth and fulfillment and happiness, and there's a lot of overlap with this community. This community that if you're not familiar with the pickup artist community, what they try to do is take apart social interaction, cut it into pieces, and then try to optimize the different pieces, much like a machine would break apart a complex task into its components and then try to optimize those different components. And this is something that kind of makes sense when you look at it from that big picture standpoint. And I'm incredibly glad that I didn't discover it when I was younger and having a lot of trouble with social interaction, because I think it really would have appealed to me. And the reason that I'm glad that I didn't encounter it then and get into it is that what you end up with is the blind leading the blind. You end up with this kind of weird community of these self-declared gurus who claim that they have developed themselves into these like charismatic people who everybody loves them and they can get anybody that they want. And what it really comes down to, though, is they've come up with a series of tricks that work in very flat social interactions to lie to people and to create a situation that's not real and to create a veneer over themselves, so that rather than developing themselves personally, what they've really done is created like a mask over everything that they do to seem a certain way. And there is a great deal of psychology and sociology and gimmickry that goes into this. And there's some good science behind some of the things that they do and train themselves at. But the end result of all of these components being adjusted in different ways and optimized in different ways is you get this kind of clownish, weirdly over-enthusiastic, tricky, scarfed and fedoraed personality. And everybody's doing the exact same template. And so when you meet one of these people, you totally know it. Anybody who has a normal set or near normal set of social skills can pick them out immediately, because it's kind of an uncanny valley of human interaction. Uncanny valley is a term that refers to robotics. And so you get robots that are really fake looking over here. And you get this theoretical human, completely human robot over here that you cannot tell is any difference. But then through the development path, as you're trying to develop a human-like robot, you hit this valley where by trying to look like a real human, you end up being creepy as hell. And so you get these very human-like robots that, as a result, are much creepier than something that looks nothing like a human. And that's what happens with this pickup artist community, where these people who are trying really, really hard to hack their way into a better social interaction instead find themselves being creepy as hell to everybody who knows what they're looking for. And every once in a while, they'll get like a false positive where somebody falls for it or thinks that they're something that they're not. But then eventually they find themselves in a situation where they don't know what to do after that initial set of interactions, because all they've trained and the only gimmicks they have work on these very flat levels. And that's kind of the friendly way of talking about it, because these communities actually have become incredibly toxic in most ways. This really toxic version of masculinity that ends up being very rapey, for lack of a better term. It tends to look at women as a way, and sometimes men, but usually it's straight guys trying to get women, and it tends to use women as a means of judging themselves and scoring themselves, and you get a point every time you get a phone number or every time you trick a girl into sleeping with you, and it ends up being incredibly creepy. But just the pure surface of it is even a flawed idea, because it's trying to take apart this complex social arrangement and break it into pieces and optimize those pieces, but it ends up missing something in the process of doing this. And that thing that's missing is very, very obvious to everyone on the outside, but because it's this internalized community where everybody's working from the same template, nobody within the community recognizes how weird and toxic it ends up being. And the reason that I wanted to address this is that I get a lot of emails and questions from people basically saying, what do I suggest then in terms of becoming better at social interaction and in terms of having better, more fulfilling relationships? And my answer is always to work on yourself first. A lot of these tricks and gimmicks focus on trying to trick the other person. They focus on trying to make the other person feel a certain way about you and who you are right now. Unfortunately, this is all predicated on a very fragile surface because you yourself don't feel good about yourself. And so you try to paint this fake version of yourself to trick other people, but that very fragile surface is still there. And so ideally what you do before you try to create a situation where you bring in somebody else, maybe they'll complete you and make you better and help you feel better about yourself, make yourself feel better about yourself. Work on yourself first. Don't try to trick somebody else into bed, but spend some time working on yourself so that you become the type of person that other people want to be around. That means getting healthy. That means being psychologically healthy so that you know who you are and what you want and where you want to be. It means surrounding yourself with people who are good people, who are the type of person you want to be. It means, whenever possible, doing work that you enjoy. Or if reality has other plans and you have to take a certain job to pay the bills, make sure that you have other activities in your life that are fulfilling to you, that allow you to explore and experiment and grow. The idea is that rather than trying to fix yourself and what you see as like a broken down old shack by applying, Christmas decorations and colorful neon paint in hopes of drawing people's attention and making them interested, you start making repairs instead. And you fix the plumbing, you fix the wiring, you make sure that the floor is not going to collapse as soon as somebody steps on it. This is not about trying to be somebody that you're not. The pickup artist thing that is trying to totally fake somebody out and create a fake persona, even using a fake name when you go out meeting people, because you don't believe that you yourself are good enough. Instead, what you should be doing is refining yourself and becoming a better version of yourself. It's not about changing. It's not about being somebody else who you think is the person that you should be. It's about looking at yourself, figuring out what makes you, you, and then how you can improve upon that. You being unhealthy physically is not you. That's not something that makes you you. That's a component of who you are right now that you can change and still be you. The same is true with the way you dress or your haircut, if that's something that you feel weird about. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't all have to be outward. A lot of this is going to be inward. And so looking at these things where you feel that you are fragile, where you feel that you are just a floor that's going to collapse as somebody steps on it, going in and systematically improving these things, not for anybody else, and not to try to, reel somebody in, but for yourself, so that you can feel good about yourself. That should be the first step with approaching any social interaction, is making sure that you feel confident and comfortable as an individual first. And as a positive byproduct of this means that you don't have to get involved with a toxic community. It means that you yourself don't have to go and trick anybody into interacting with you. And it means that you can do this whenever you like. And yes, some of it you can systematize. You can systematize some of your productivity. You can systematize some of the work that you do. You can break apart what makes somebody dress well if you want to, but don't do it in a way that's copying somebody else. Do it in a way that helps you feel like more yourself than ever before. And as a result, by focusing on you first, you do end up being that type of person that other people want to be around. And as a result, relationships of any kind are no longer such a taxing, kind of crazy, difficult thing. It's something that happens, and it happens on your terms for whatever you want them to be. Do not allow your relationships with other people to define you. Do not decide that somebody else coming into your life because you've tricked them to come there will suddenly change everything for you. It starts with you, it starts with yourself. The nice thing about this is that it's something that is completely under your control. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, a like or a share would be amazing. If you'd like to ask me a question to answer in a future video, you can ask that in the comments below or contact me via any of the social networks that I'm on. I am at Colin is my name pretty much everywhere. And you can find out more about me and my work at colin.io. My podcast is letsknowthings.com and my blog is exilelifestyle.com.